our top story, and in really positive move, home loans are set to get cheaper. HDFC Bank, country's second largest bank, has slashed its base rate or the minimum lending rate by a sharp 35 basis points to bring it down to 9.35% effective September 1st. Among public sector banks, Canara Bank has also cut its base rate by 10 basis points to 9.9% effective September 3. Now, we've been hearing that this could set off a rate cut war amongst lenders to retain their existing customers. Now, HDFC Bank's new base rate will be the lowest in the banking industry, beating even SBI and ICICI base rates at 9.7%. The base rate, for all our viewers, just to put it in perspective, is the benchmark rate to which all other lending rates are linked. Now, what has really happened this year is that since January, the Reserve Bank has cut the key policy rates by 75 basis points. But banks, however, including housing finance companies, did not proportionately reduce their lending rates. So, home loan rates did not come down as much as 75 basis points from January 2015. They've been cut by about 25 to 30 basis points. We've got a very interesting panel today. Pradeep Chaudhary, former chairman SBI, joining us, and of course NavinMRaheja, CMD Raheja Developers and chairman of Naredco, to find out what do you make of this rate cut. Mr. Chaudhary, first of all, everyone's calling it a trigger to a rate war, and there are opinions divided both ways. A lot of analysts and experts are saying this is actually bad. What do you think? Is it good, bad or ugly?
Well, it's extremely good, and I would compliment HDFC Bank for having, stepped into the shoes of what I call the most efficient lender.
Okay.
In fact, globally, if you look at it, US, the most largest and banks with greatest market share or presence, Citibank and Bank of America, they all take pride in saying that we have the lowest lending rates. So that's an efficient lender nomenclature or efficient lender characteristic. And I would expect, even particularly SBI, given its low average cost of funds, not to meekly surrender the leadership position, but to come out in the market and compete.
So you do think that SBI will also follow suit and try and defend their position? In fact, Arundhati Bhattacharya did pose this question, surprisingly, to the governor of RBI, saying, can I actually be allowed to give home loans at rates lower than the base rate? And here now we see HDFC Bank actually having reduced the base rate, isn't it, Mr. Chaudhary? So there is this eagerness to at least bring down safe loan portfolios or bring down rates for safer loan portfolios like home loans, isn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, why ask for the moon? Please do what is in your reach. So SBI, if it is keen and if it really convinced that lower rates, which of course we'll discuss later, will spur their home loan business, I think nothing stops them from lowering their base rate to 9.35 and even 9.25 and lower their home loan rates. And I'm quite sure, apart from getting new business, in fact there would be many people willing to shift their mortgages to SBI. Anecdotally, I'm telling this, I learned this is already happening, that many people who are carrying their home loans at 11 and a half have found the SBI rates to be attractive enough, and they are switching their mortgages to SBI.
Mr. Raheja, this should come as music to your ears. You've got a voice as solid as Mr. Chaudhary saying that this is the best thing which can happen. Developers such as you, who are probably faced with the worst slowdown in home sales, have been crying aloud, saying single digit, if you can bring down home loan rates to single digits, it can spur sales again. Do you believe now with 9.35 HDFC, most banks will follow suit, so you can assume home rates will come down to single digits? Is that, how good is that?
I would say होम बायर्स के लिए अच्छे दिन की शुरुआत हो गया है. So it is the time when developers have actually gone substantially down with discounts and luring customers and schemes, and what all probably they could do, they have done all this since last 1 year to attract customers and to revive the market. But this one is the biggest trigger, because ultimately it is the disposable income and the service of the EMI. If that goes within the pocket of the customers, naturally the actual demand in the country, we all know, is there. There is housing shortage, there is actual demand, but the only difference is the purchasing power of the actual user with respect to disposable income. So with this rate cut, which apparently looks handsome as well, 0.35 is a handsome rate cut, and which is very apparent that it is going to stir competition in rate cut by other banks also.
Right. Okay. So actually, it's good news, Mr. Chaudhary, for you to say that yes, this is a really positive step. But I've had developers argue this point forever, saying that lower home loan rates are critical for home sales. Do you agree with that? I mean, as your experience of three plus decades in banking, every time rates come down and they come to single digits, do they really have a acceleration effect on home sales?
Without doubt. For example, just let me give you the numbers. SBI 30-year home loan rate has an EMI of 865 rupees per month.
Right.
That is 360 months. So a person for every 1 lakh rupee of home loan would be repaying 3 lakh rupees to the lender, to SBI. Now, what is 1 lakh is the principal and 2 lakh is the interest. Now, by whatever mechanism, by cutting the cost for the banks or whatever, if this 3 lakhs gets compressed to 2,75,000, 2,50,000 or even 2 lakh, I am sure this is, without any doubt, I think this is a no-brainer that it would lead to a spurt in home buying, which would lead to a spurt in home construction, and along with home buying you need all kinds of things like sanitary fitting, electric fitting, consumer durables, etc.
Mr. Raheja, you did mention the fact, so everything that Mr. Chaudhary said, I think the policy makers, the bankers, it's all positive so far, but I just wanted to understand from you, there are markets, especially in NCR, which have actually hit a 60-month inventory overhang. That means sales have slowed down to perhaps the slowest that they've seen in 2 decades. We've also heard the news, in fact, in a report by JLL India, that Bangalore, which is supposed to be a sane market, has climbed to number 2 position when it comes to inventory overhang, which is an end user driven market. My question to you is simple. Every home buyer I speak to is waiting for home prices to come down further. Developers may say, look, there is no more room for prices to come down, but data is saying something very different. Can you defend that position, saying home rates or just the prices of homes are not likely to come down further?
See, as far as I know, the prices at which the housing is selling in NCR are, looking into the land prices and all other factors which accumulate to make the price line for a developer. I think developers are already selling at almost the cost or below the cost. There is virtually no profitability now, because already the prices, the input prices, the cost of development, the cost of licensing, the cost of taking sanctions from more than 40-50 departments, and cost of money, all these factors combined together, there is absolutely no possibility of developers, as far as I can make calculations, discussing with all the developers, even discussing with our internal finance teams also, there is virtually no scope of reducing prices anymore. And that will be that if developers start working with losses, then only it is possible, but that cannot be sustained on a very long duration.
Sir. All right. Okay, one final question. Despite sales, developers facing a situation of very slow sales, if I look at the home loan book of the largest lender, HDFC, that has not stopped growing, sir. So we don't get the number of loans they give in their data or in the numbers that they declare. We just get the total home loan portfolio, which has actually been growing at a reasonable double-digit number. So why has there been, why do you think that's happening? Is it that the value of homes is increasing, or do you think that they've been able to penetrate into maybe markets like tier 2, tier 3, and actually there's been not just the value increase but also home loan increase, I mean the number of loans increase?
Question is to me?
Yes.
Okay, Manisha, I think I possibly would like to correct you here. The biggest home loan lender is not HDFC but State Bank of India.
Okay, sir.
Total book size, to my understanding, of State Bank of India is 1,65,000 crores. SDFC may have originated and sold out, whatever. Now the thing is that we have such a backlog of home ownership. That is why, like, that applies to anything. You open a school, there is no dearth of children. You open a hospital, there is no dearth of patient. You open a branch, there is no dearth of customers. So Indians as a group, as an economy, we are underprovided in terms of service. Now coming to this point, I think it is the very, I would say, ill-advised policy of Reserve Bank of India which has led to this situation. Till 1992 or maybe 1996, Reserve Bank stipulated that not more than 2% of the total loans can be given for housing. With the result, if somebody wanted to acquire home, either they had to go to their employer, and if the employer didn't have a home loan scheme, they had to turn to HDFC or LIC. LIC in those days came with a compulsory policy. So it became so daunting. But ever since, banks have been allowed to lend for home loans. A, the portfolio experience is good, and secondly, it has led to relatively a large proliferation of home ownership. So this only proves that how short-sighted and how I think ill-advised and not in the interest of the common people policies can set the country back a few decades.
Absolutely. So let's just say that with HDFC Bank cutting rates and most other banks will follow, so will housing finance companies. We can just hope that the real estate sector per se will see a big revival in demand. Pradeep Chaudhary, Navin Raheja, thank you gentlemen for joining us for this very important discussion. Okay, we've got Nishan.